Hello, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. Today's topics came straight from our community. You voted on the YouTube poll, and the clear winner was, how do I know if a supplement is actually working? It's a fantastic question, and it's one that I hear from so many parents, right? There's many supplements that work for different children and for different reasons, and you've got to have a really good strategy when you're starting these things. Otherwise, you could be trying supplements for years and years and never really get what you want, or never even get what other parents have seen as well. So I know you're doing your best to support your child, but it really can be hard to know if things are making a difference. And that is what we're focusing on today. So welcome to everybody. I'm very happy to have you. And we also have a giveaway. So we have a beautiful box of some products in there, and I will go into them more. And the truth is, supplements can be incredibly helpful, but only when they're used intentionally and also monitored properly. So there's just too much guessing. Is this doing anything? Should I stop? Should I keep going? Should I increase the dose? Right? And that uncertainty is what leads to frustration and then wasted time, because it's even wasted time just thinking these things over, and also a lot of unnecessary expense. So I certainly want to save you from all of that, and I want to help you feel confident in how to evaluate what's working and what's not, because it really does take this kind of strategic thinking to really accomplish this difficult task. So one of the things that makes autism so complex, right, is this is the Navigating Autism Matrix. These are all the aspects that someone has to navigate through and make sure you're keeping track of action in these different categories. So diet and the healthcare team, right? Healthcare team incorporates different doctors and specialists, functional medicine specialists, conventional medicine specialists. And you have supportive environment. How do you keep yourself motivated to keeping taking action? Because this is extremely difficult and it's stressful and you might not be sleeping. So there's definitely a lot that is rolled into all this. And then supplements. This is the category that we're focusing on today. Supplements. So how do we know if a supplement is actually working? And then there's also education and probiotics and celebrating success. So these are all the things that get covered when you're evaluating autism and trying to help your child regain health and really be able to do what they want in life. That's the whole idea, is to help our children be able to grow into whomever they want to be. Okay, so if there are any questions, you might see my eyes moving. I will look in the chat for questions. I'm very happy to have everyone here. So if you do have a question related to this or something else, or sometimes parents from previous lives give me updates and we talk that way, that's totally welcomed as well. So just if you have any questions, put it in the chat and I'll be checking it periodically. All right. And remember, we have our giveaway. So I will get into that in a little bit. But let's first start talking about the key signs to look for and really start to set the strategy. What's the strategy for evaluating if a supplement is working or not? So let's get straight into that. And of course, I do have some notes. I try to be as prepared as possible so that your time is well spent. All right, so how to know if a supplement is working, the strategy. What is the strategy behind that? And you always want to have a strategy, always, right? So the first part is start with a goal, right? So if you have any supplement, what is the goal? And what are you hoping this supplement will help with? And now, hoping, right, you want to not just blindly try things, right? You really want to make sure you have a good reason as to why you're using a supplement. So be specific with that goal. Is it to help with sleep? Is it to improve focus, digestion, energy, calmness, right? You really want to be specific. Okay, what is it that I want to work on? What is it that will really be meaningful for my child? And that's really where you want to start with most for their goal. What is the most meaningful thing for them? And so then once you have that, you want to start tracking a baseline. So you want to really get to know what is limiting in that goal, right? So if it's sleep, let's say, 6 nights a week, they're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. So you want to have a metric. You want to be like, all right, it's about 6 days a week. And that's what the problem is. And you really want to write it down because life is so crazy sometimes and hectic, and there's so many things going on that if you really don't write it down, then you'll see later a lot of times you won't even realize it's not happening anymore when you get the right supplements or intervention. So really track that baseline and then write it down. And then the key thing here is you introduce one change at a time. I talk about that a lot, right? Where it's, if you have a few things you're going to do, especially if you go to a doctor and they give you a list of 7 things to do, right? You don't just start all 7 because that would be chaotic and you would have no idea what was really impactful, what was negatively impactful, if so. So it's really change one thing at a time. So timeline wise, it's about every 3 to 5 days when you introduce something. So if I were to start a supplement on Monday, I probably would not introduce any other new thing until Friday at most. And so if I introduce something and things went well, right? Maybe I would increase the dose around Wednesday or Thursday. I probably wouldn't introduce something new on Friday because I had started increasing the dose. So just keep all these things in mind, because sometimes a child is doing great at a particular dose, and then you increase it, and then whoa, this happens a lot with a few things. I know on TikTok, leucovorin is very popular. So this is definitely something that happens with leucovorin, right? You're coasting along, things are good, and you're like, oh, let me increase the dose, and then hyperactivity and maybe like pinching and biting, and it's just like, whoa. So when you're changing things, change one thing at a time, and that includes changing dosage. So just be careful about that. And the whole idea is you want to be able to isolate the effect, because then it takes too long to figure out, wait, what was it that did that? And now the next thing is really important. So wait an appropriate amount of time. And this is the vital question when you're asking, wait, is this supplement working, right? So you should have an understanding and an expectation of, okay, I will see a change in this amount of time, right? So again, it's back to strategy. What am I doing? What's my goal? What is the behavior that I've been baselining that I understand? And then how long am I anticipating it to take for there to be a change in that? And that could be difficult because some of the things you might be working on might take 3 to 6 weeks, might take 12 weeks for it to really see an impact. And you want to have that expectation in mind, because if you start something and you get to like day 5, day 6, you're like, I'm not seeing anything, right? But it takes 12 weeks, then you've eliminated something that might be really important for your child, but just because you didn't give it enough time. So really understanding what is the appropriate time that I should see a change. That's part of the strategy. And this is why you want to think through all these different things. And I'll go through some examples. So I definitely want to let you know I will be going through some examples. Okay, so then you want to start observing things for changes. So anything like something that you can measure. So, hours of sleep, right? That's pretty straightforward to measure. Or you might want to be looking at like mood, right? So if you're doing something that really impacts calmness, right, it's a bit subjective. What is their mood? But you want to start observing these different things and really observing your child as a whole, because you might see some other changes that you weren't anticipating. And then also just track this. It doesn't have to be complex. You can track it in your phone. If you wrote down your baseline measurements and you have a notebook, I know lots of parents keep a notebook, so you can certainly do that. And then you want to know, when am I going to stop? If I'm going to stop, right? When am I going to increase dose, right? You don't start at, a high dose or anything like that. And so it's really about having that idea in mind. And then if you did some type of test, so a blood test, a urine test, a stool test, if you did something, and you really should, right? You don't want to start playing with supplements because it's endless, right? There's thousands of supplements that are beneficial, right? But you've got to understand which one is going to mean the most to your child. So really doing testing is important. And that's what you start with a goal, right? So do retest and see, okay, have things changed? Has this had a meaningful impact in a cellular level, right? So if you can see things happening with your child in life and quality of life has changed, then retesting really helps quantify, okay, do we have more to go? I'm thinking specifically with different like yeast infections, right? You do the test, you get the number and you say, okay, do we still need prescription? Do we still need herbal supplements? Just because their behavior changed doesn't tell you the entire story. You want to do things to completion. So retesting is certainly part of the strategy. So hopefully that makes sense. And we talked strategy. Now let's get into the giveaway. So we have an awesome giveaway today, and it is from our friends that produce NeuroProtect. And I contacted them. They have a great product. I have a video. They have several products. So I have a video on one product I did a few years ago, and it's called NeuroProtect. So let me start explaining the giveaway. So in here, there is a bottle of NeuroProtect. And this is the reason why I asked them to give us these awesome boxes to give away to you parents, because NeuroProtect is something that really helps with neuroinflammation. And that's something a lot of parents really value and focus on, rightfully so, right? The science shows it. So there's a brochure in here that talks about how to reduce inflammation naturally. And you can certainly check out the video I have on NeuroProtect. Many functional medicine doctors, the top functional medicine doctors who focus on autism, many of them recommend NeuroProtect. And so I just want to go through NeuroProtect a little bit. So there's the capsule form here, and then there is a liquid form. And so I asked them to generously give one of each so that a parent could have options and see which works best for their child. So this is the liquid formulation of the low phenol. So the regular NeuroProtect has higher phenols in it from the different ingredients. And some kids are sensitive to that, right? If you do certain functional medicine testing, you would know, or sometimes kids react to certain vegetables or fruit. That also gives you indication. But here is the liquid formulation, so easy dosing, right? Because our kids sometimes are not yet taking pills, totally understandable. And then here's the pill version of the NeuroProtect, but the low phenol. So this really, NeuroProtect has a lot of impact on neuroinflammation, focus. It's something that many functional medicine doctors use, and it's absolutely fantastic. They also included a wonderful PR box, right? So if you see all the different, I don't know, makeup TikTokers, I watch a lot of makeup TikToks, and they get these great boxes. So I want you guys to have great boxes too. So there's a cool hat in here. There's a notepad, which is important, right? I'm talking about taking notes and tracking baselines and things like that. We always need a collected source of where we're taking our notes. And they also included a really cool speaker, so we can start having more fun with our kids. So here's the speaker. It's a USB. And this box is really just meant for you to be happy and just enjoy opening a surprise gift. So if you are in the US or have a US address, I can ship to US addresses. So if this is something that you would like, it is a giveaway. Certainly, you can just put in the chat the word giveaway, and I'll be picking 4 parents to receive the box. And so all you need to do is type giveaway into the chat, and I will take it from there. All right, so let's get back. We can talk more about neuroprotect in a little bit. Let's go through an example. So on the poll, on the YouTube poll, there was someone who said, hey, can you walk through digestive enzyme as to whether or not, review the strategy as to whether it's working, how do I know, how do I not? So I have 3 examples, and I'd love to walk through them. If there are other supplements you would want me to walk through, I certainly can do that as well. So let's just start with digestive enzymes. And remember, if you have any questions, just put that in the chat as well. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions you might have. All right, so let's start applying the strategy for digestive enzymes. Now, digestive enzymes, this is a great question because digestive enzymes are one of the more commonly recommended supplements. It's really a basic supplement. So this is like one of your first steps, right? And it might seem a little exotic. I'm not going to go into too much about the mechanism of action and the background and all of that. Basically, if you think your child is not fully breaking down their food, then a digestive enzyme might be really appropriate. There's different tests you can do, or you can just look in their stool. And if you see bits of food, you probably need digestive enzymes. And the reason why is when you don't digest your food, you can get stomach aches, you can get headaches, you might get more constipated, you might have gas, right? You're not digesting food properly. So undigested food is going into the large intestine, and that is where you can start feeding pathogenic bacteria, so dysbiosis increases, right? So it's really a basic supplement, and it has real reasons as to why it's being used. So again, track the baseline, right? You start with the goal. All right, my child, I'm seeing undigested food in their diaper, right? Okay, and maybe they're gassy 4 days a week. They're really gassy. They have a stomach ache and they're crying, and they might be hanging over the couch or doing something like that, right? So the goal is, all right, we really need to improve their digestion. Okay, the baseline is 4 days, gas, every day, undigested food in their poop. Like I can literally see what they ate. So you write that down, track your baseline. And now introduce one change at a time, right? So we're not going to change diet. We're not going to do other things. What we're going to do is introduce the digestive enzyme. So digestive enzymes, typically you have it with each meal. Sometimes it's with each snack as well. So talk that over with your doctor and understand, okay, am I doing this with each meal and snack? So have a good strategy as there. And so you might start on day 1 with, all right, let me give it to them at, let's say, breakfast. A lot of times you do this on a Saturday, so you could see the change in your child and not send them off to school and not see how things, played out. But you would typically, if this were me, I would start it on a Saturday morning. I would give 1 capsule or 1 chewable or 1 powder. Digestive enzymes come in lots of different formulations. I do have videos on good digestive enzyme products, so certainly check those out if you want to understand which ones are really good. And so you would do that. And so maybe on Saturday you would start with 1, let's just say capsule, 1 capsule, digestive enzyme in the morning. All right. And maybe you don't see any change, right? Maybe you don't. And so you do it on Sunday again. Okay, you do it. All right. And you see no negative change. Okay, fine. You do it again on Monday. Good. Okay. So maybe on Monday, you realize, wait a second, it's been 3 days and there really hasn't been much gas. And he only cried maybe once, something like that. Right. So you're starting to be observant as to, okay, have things changed? Now, you're not expecting things to change overnight with like 3 capsules given, right? So now you have an understanding of, okay, I'm not seeing any negative effects. I'm probably seeing maybe a little positive. All right, let's do lunch. So you give it at lunch, do that for another 2 days, start incorporating dinner, another 2 days, and boom, in like 10 days, now you're giving it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so digestive enzymes, right? You want to now shift into, okay, what is the right amount of time? Oh, and remember for the giveaway, anyone who has a US address, please enter giveaway into the chat, and I will send you this wonderful box of NeuroProtect products. It's really great for neuroinflammation, and many of the top autism functional medicine doctors recommend it. So feel free to put your name into the chat, and I will send you this great PR box. Okay, so back to digestive enzymes. So the time you would expect digestive enzymes to change is relatively short. So within 3 to 5 days, you would want to see some kind of change. And so, Nina, good to see you. Awesome. Lovely having you here. Nina is fabulous. Good to have you here. Okay, so digestive enzymes, time-wise, this is one where you're expecting to see a change relatively quickly, right? So within 1 to 5 days, you're going to start to see a small change. And within 10 days, if you're giving a digestive enzyme with breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, then you should really see an impact in the stool. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. Digestive enzymes is something that I should see. Now, a change relatively soon, right? So to have like fully digested poop might not happen in 5 days, right? So you want to keep your expectation of, okay, I should see a change relatively short, within a week or so, especially when you start getting up to giving digestive enzymes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so it might be like, all right, on day 12, that's when you've noticed, hey, the stool, there's no undigested food there. So it's important to keep that time frame in mind. So digestive enzyme is something that you would expect to change relatively quickly once you're giving their appropriate dose. And then start looking, okay, if they were constipated, wow, all right, they're pooping every day. Amazing. Okay, great. And since the food is digested, now you're easing off the stress of the body of having undigested food in the colon, potentially feeding pathogenic bacteria, increasing dysbiosis, which then increases other different symptoms, right? So you're getting at some of that root cause, which will impact things much more down the line. So digestive enzyme, short amount of time you would see a change. But it really has a large impact and long term. So that's what you want to do. So you start just tracking. All right, reassess. They only have undigested food in their stool when they eat, I don't know, maybe steak, right? And maybe it's partially because they're not completely chewy. So you keep that in mind. And you're just really understanding these different observations that you have. And so then you say, okay, is this something that I should continue? Yeah, right? Right. So digestive enzyme is a supplement that many times is kept for long term, meaning more than 6 months, right? So you really want to make sure the food is digested and it's working. So you just leave that as one of your basic supplements and then continue on. You would say, okay, what's my next focus? So that is digestive enzymes. You could retest, right? If you had done a stool test and it showed that there are undigested fibers in the stool, right? You could retest. A lot of times for undigested food, you're just going to look in the diaper. You're just going to look in the toilet or anything along those lines. So that is digestive enzymes. All right. So if you have any questions, definitely put it in the chat. I love going over questions. And if you want to enter into the giveaway, you could just type giveaway into the chat. And as long as you have a US address, I can send you this amazing box of products, NeuroProtect, the low phenol liquid version, and the Neuroprotect low phenol capsule version, plus some other goodies as well. So if that interests you, certainly just enter chat giveaway into the chat, and we'll send that off to you. Neuroprotect is a great supplement, and you could watch the video that I already have. I did it like maybe 2 years now. It's been a while. It's a supplement that many functional medicine doctors use. Not for every child with autism, but they certainly do use them. Okay, so we can go to the next supplement if you would like. What I was thinking of was doing zinc, because there's a lot of like picky eating and kind of immune system involvement in autism. So we certainly can go through zinc. And if you have any questions, just enter that into the chat and we'll go from there. Okay, so, and if you see my eyes diverting, it's just keeping an eye on the chat. All right, so let's go through zinc. What would be the strategy for zinc? How do I know if zinc is working, right? So why? Why am I going to use zinc, right? So maybe you did a blood test, your RBC zinc, and you have quantified the level. Okay, fine. That would be the most direct strategic way of doing it. Maybe your child just is, picky eater, right? Poor appetite, right? Maybe pica. Maybe they're putting dirt in their mouth. Maybe they're putting shoes, right? Shoes have the dirt in it. Different things in their mouth. A lot of times low zinc is involved in that. Again, testing is ideal, right? Because there's many things that could contribute to picky eating. There's many things that could contribute to poor appetite, right? So and even a child being sick often, right? So there are many reasons as to why one would use zinc. If you did a blood test, and this is the RBC zinc is something that's typically covered by insurance in the US. Obviously, you have to have a doctor that orders it, that's in your insurance plan and all of that. But this is something that can easily be done and be covered by insurance. So whether or not you did the test or not, it also could be related to detox. Zinc is important for detoxing. But again, if someone has toxicity levels, they don't necessarily have low zinc. So you really want to be careful and define your strategy. You want to have a clear why, right? And so then how does it work? All right. So Nina has, my daughter keeps eating lotion and sometimes soap. So that lotion and soap typically isn't associated with pica in the sense of like a mineral deficiencies. Sometimes kids are eating lotion because of the smell. If they like some sweets, it can be that. I would definitely, and Nina, I don't know, Nina, how much you want me to say, but Nina and I know each other, and so I know we work together. So I know a little more details than what's just in the chat. I certainly don't want to reveal anything that you wouldn't want revealed. So I would track, and I would love to talk to you about this next appointment we have. I would track the ABC, the antecedent. We know the behavior. She's eating lotion, sometimes soap. And then the consequence. So why is she doing it? That I would really love. And again, I can zero in on this a bit differently just because Nina and I do work together. So I would love to see like maybe 5 instances of ABC antecedent. The soap, is it because she's in the bath? And just write it down. You can even email it to me, write it down, and then we can look and see, okay, what is she getting out of doing that? And then we can focus a little bit more as to whether we're doing what the cause could be. And I know we could also add that to the list of blood tests that you would be doing maybe in the future, the RBC zinc. So there's many different ways, right? So thanks, Nina, for asking that question. And zinc is involved in so many processes in the body, right? So that list I had of, what are you helping zinc would help with, right? Picky eating, poor appetite, frequent infections with the immune system, sensory issues as well, detoxing. So it's really involved in a lot in the body. Zinc can impact taste and smell. That's again why picky eating sometimes occur, right? They're involved in neurotransmitters. So zinc is involved in so much. Sometimes zinc is given when you want your child to be a little bit calmer, but again, it's not something that you want to give too much of. There's no benefit in high levels of zinc. So again, understand how it works is certainly key. And then what are you expecting to change? And good morning as well to you. So what is it that you're expecting to change, right? So if it is low zinc and you're trying to isolate picky eating, right, then you would want a baseline, and many times you don't have to write this down, right? They only eat 4 foods or something like that, right? But you might then start to see your child say, can I have a bite? And they might just take a bite of something and totally surprise you. And you might be like, oh my goodness, I worked for like 6 months trying to get you to eat different things. And I cooked this and I cooked this and I cooked this. And then a few days after giving you zinc, all of a sudden, oh, yeah, let me try that. And that is exactly the way you want to navigate autism. So you want to have that clear strategy. You want to have focus. You want to understand the baseline. You want to understand your intervention, why you're doing it, and your expectation of timeline. And then you want to measure what is the change, right? So this, I love when this happens, when kids all of a sudden are like, oh yeah, I want to eat broccoli. Yeah, I want to eat this. Like, and as a parent, it can be so like, I work so hard trying to get, but it's really getting at that root cause. So when you fix that, many other things blossom. And that's the way you want to navigate autism, right? So you really want to keep that in mind. What are you tracking? And then really observe it. And the key thing with zinc is also you can give too much zinc, and then that can cause nausea. So this is something you really want to be mindful of. And zinc can take, it depends on the level of deficiency, it depends on the level of the dose that you're giving. So zinc can take up to like 3 to 6 weeks. So if someone came to me and said, hey, I was giving my child zinc and I haven't really seen a change, it's only been 2 weeks, like, should I keep going, right? It would be, yeah, you definitely would want to. It would be too early to quit on zinc, right? Digestive enzyme is much quicker. You want to see that, especially when you're giving the right dose. You want to see that change pretty quickly. Zinc, not so much. It's more that intermediary. So 3 to 6 weeks is really how long you would want to keep giving that dose, and maybe increasing the dose. Again, this is the kind of things to speak with your doctor about, specifically for dosing. And so just being mindful of the time. So when you evaluate, hey, is zinc working? And you might be like, we've only been doing it 10 days. Yeah, well, we haven't given it enough time. And then you can start to think, okay, is the dose appropriate? All right, when was the last time I increased the dose? All right, well, did I start with a small dose? Yeah, okay, increase the dose. And it sometimes takes a particular dose. So there's no one who can tell you 100% certain what the appropriate dose is for your child. You can kind of ballpark it and guess, but sometimes the child just needs more. And that's not right or wrong. So it's really having that patience. And where do you get patience from? Especially as a parent, we have so many things going on. It's not really patience. You just have a strategy. And you can go back, it's written down and be like, oh, it's only been 12 days. I got to chill. Okay, let me just keep doing it. I'll reassess, right? And that's the kind of strategy you want to have to know if a supplement is working. Okay, I got some questions in the chat. Let me see. Is it recommended to rotate different multivitamins? In general, it's not to rotate different multivitamins. Now, multivitamins is a whole complex category, right? Sometimes parents are giving multivitamins to compensate for picky eating. So they might be giving a much stronger and broader multivitamins, whereas later if their diet is fantastic, sometimes a multivitamin isn't even needed, or it would be a real basic one. But you would want to have a good idea as to strategy wise what it is that you want from your multivitamin. I think last live or the live before, I think it was 2 lives before, I went into picky eating. That was the topic, and I had different proteins, and we also talked about different multivitamins. And multivitamin is a question I get often. So I know on my YouTube channel I do have different product reviews of multivitamins, and I'll do some more for sure. So I wouldn't say that it is typically a strategy to rotate multivitamins. With the multivitamin, you really want to understand, do I need like a hefty one or not? And it really more depends on the eating of your child. And the whole idea is you would want to see the eating to improve and then not need that real hefty, robust multivitamin. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, just certainly put in a follow-up, and I'd love to talk about it more because multivitamins is commonly used. I have to say, I see parents want to use multivitamins more than I see the top functional medicine doctors want to use multivitamins. So that is something that I can see from understanding the perspective of the physician and what they're recommending, and also the parents. And their concern about picky eating and making sure there's enough vitamins in the child's diet. So it's really interesting to have that perspective where parents are like, multivitamin, 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 and functional medicine doctors, that's not really their focus. And I'm talking about some of the top functional medicine doctors that really focus on autism. But it's not to say one is right opposed to the other, right? So the parents aren't wrong. It's just the focuses I've seen are different. Okay, so again, hopefully that answered your question. And for the giveaway, again, NeuroProtect is a fantastic product. I have a video that explains the mechanism of action. It really helps target neuroinflammation, which is really important for so many kids. And this is a great product, and they created a great box just for our parents. So if you have an address in the US and you want to be entered into the giveaway, just type in the chat giveaway, and I will pick randomly 4 people and then send them the box. All right, let's keep going. So, okay, that reply was, it answered your question. Good. Fantastic. And I believe you've been here before. You asked really good questions. So thank you for continuing to ask. All right. So now we'll do the last one. I was only planning for this to be 45 minutes. So I'll cover this last one, but if there are any other questions, I certainly would love to answer those and help you out as much as possible. Okay. So for the last supplement, we will focus on PQQ. Now, this probably is not something that is popular on TikTok yet. I'm sure it will be eventually. But so this is much more of an advanced supplement. This is not something you're doing. And you can see I had a little strategy myself of how am I going to explain these supplements. So the first one was asked by a parent, so for digestive enzyme. So that was a real basic one. That's something that many parents are going to evaluate, you know, like right in the beginning of your journey of getting your child to be healthy. Is this needed or not? Then zinc is something a little intermediary. It's usually not like supplement 1, but it's certainly something that is considered in the intermediate part of the journey. And then PQQ is really when you're starting to focus on mitochondria. Many doctors have an intense focus on mitochondria when some of the root causes that make mitochondria not function well, when they've been addressed fully or, you know, more than 50%. So parents can only do so much, right? And these supplements cost a lot, so you can't expect a parent to buy and give like 20 supplements. Not practical. It's too much for a child, right? So that's why mitochondrial support a lot of times could be general in the sense of a multivitamin. So there are different multivitamins that also can help mitochondria. They're usually like very heavy in the B vitamins. When I look at a label, I can usually tell what the strategy is of that multivitamin based upon the amount of B vitamins there are and the percentage, right? The dose, the daily dose. And so PQQ is something that is not in the beginning. So let's just walk through it. So with PQQ, a lot of times parents are trying to help when their child is like, it's an interesting, they have energy, but they're tired, but they're just wired. I don't know if you've ever had this. You just kind of tired and wired. That would be the best way to say it. So there is a fatigue aspect, but then there's also kind of like a wound up aspect of it. If you've done different functional medicine tests and you see mitochondrial support is needed, then that's when doctors use PQQ. But again, many times it's after they resolve some of the root causes that contribute to the mitochondria not functioning well. Brain fog, not being alert is something that is commonly used. So it's really mitochondrial focus, stamina, energy, muscle weakness, so muscle tone, things like that. How it works is it's a mitochondrial enhancer, right? So it's usually given with other things, with other mitochondrial supplements and focus. And it helps with the cellular energy of ATP. So it's not that instant B vitamin, I'm awake, like, or caffeine, I'm up. It's energy at a much more cellular level. And PQQ protects mitochondria from oxidative stress. A lot of times that's when you start using it with CoQ10, maybe ubiquinol. There are different formulations of each other, and also different supplements that really focus on ATP production and mitochondria. So what to watch for, right? Again, the strategy. You want to see how your child's energy. So this is really getting into fine tuning, right? If you're looking at their energy, that means they're able to focus and they're doing things and they need more energy to do more. That's usually like the way parents describe a child when they're starting to focus on mitochondria. Like, oh my gosh, so many things have disappeared. They didn't disappear, you did things, right? But this is when a child is going to school and the teacher might be like, wow, in the morning they're on fire. They're able to sit there and really learn, and they weren't able to do that before. And now like around 1 o'clock, this is when they're really getting tired, but sometimes they're pushing through because the rest of the kids aren't taking a nap. So this is really the things that you want to watch out for. So you also want to look for clearer thinking, being able to think longer, also speech. So this is sometimes when you want, speech is coming and you want it to have more. Also just better tolerance to being physical. They want to go out. I want to go do things. So you might see an increase in, your child being able to walk more. Right? Oh, they weren't really able to walk to the car, and now they want to walk to the park instead. Or, we used to go to the park and they would just go and sit down, and now, whoa, they're climbing on this, they're climbing on that. So these are the things, again, you have your baseline, you want to track it. And that's the important part. With PQQ, you definitely do not want to give too much. So this is something where you start with a particular dose, you go 3 days, you see how it goes, and then you increase slowly, because too much PQQ can make the child irritable. It can disrupt sleep. So we certainly don't want that. And if you give too much mitochondrial support, you don't even know which one is inappropriate. So that's why you want to make sure to do it low and slow. And so with PQQ, often you'll see a change within 2 weeks or so. So it is a little bit on the more shorter side, where zinc, you wanted to have a much longer time wait period to see if it worked. For this, you really want to reassess. And a lot of times parents see it within a few days. But again, you want to have that expectation of how long am I expecting there to be a change, positive or negative. So again, you start low with the PQQ, with mitochondrial support, and then increase. And for some kids who have mitochondrial issue, they only need a small amount of PQQ, and sometimes that's already included in different mitochondrial supports. So when additional PQQ is added, you start to see some of those negative side effects. So then you just say, okay, they don't need PQQ at this time. And you can retest mitochondrial function and see if you would want to get any more specific with different aspects of mitochondrial support. So that is what I was planning to discuss today. And thank you for those who entered into the giveaway. So again, we have this beautiful box, Neuroprotect products. Really help address neuroinflammation and focus and calmness. I have a video that I've done a few years ago, and you could certainly learn more about that. They're a great company. I reached out to them and said, hey, can you give some wonderful boxes to just help parents have a little bit of joy and fun in this process? It's not easy. So I just want to make this as enjoyable as possible. I know it might be kind of hard to think about, but it certainly can be a great learning experience. And for those who want to work with me on any of these aspects, I work with parents mainly through a platform now. You can certainly, I'll put this in the chat if you want to check out working with me. I would greatly love working with parents and helping their child get healthier and happier and navigating all the science, so the real science, and really being able to focus on what's important and meaningful for your child based on science, so based on logic. All right, so we do have people who are entered in the giveaway. Just send me an email with your address so I can send you the giveaway box. And thank you very much for being here. We'll be back next month. I'll put a poll up so you could tell me what interests you the most and how I can be most helpful to you. So thank you very much for being here. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.